And they were very nice to me. They paid me, and it was just one those kind of gigs where you just get.
What made you decide to show up and come clean? Like, I would have just been like, don't get me started. Like, I would have just tried to acclimate as best as possible.
That wasn't going to work. It's just, there are just so many heartbreaking shows when you start out. I was working at Cellar Door, opening for Muddy Waters. And I was on stage 2 minutes.
You can't just gloss over that.
What?
That you opened for Muddy Waters.
I used to tour with Muddy.
Like, I opened for Barry Sobel.
I was Barry Sobel.
You opened for Muddy Waters.
I was Miles Davis's opening act. You know that?
No, I didn't. This is... Wait, so...
I used to tour with Miles. I used to tour with... you ever heard of Rahsaan Roland Kirk?
Which one? The first one or the second one?
No, Rahsaan Roland Kirk was... he was blind, African-American guy, wore dashikis.
Oh,
Rahsaan.
No,
Do you know who he is?
No, I don't.
Well, he was famous because he could hold a note like... He could blow a clarinet on one side of his mouth, hold that note indefinitely, like 5 minutes, and then play another minute, and he was blind. And we used to do black clubs. And we would go...
we?
Me and him, and his band. So Rahsaan would walk out, and he would go, I want to welcome you, brothers. We got a young brother here. He's going to talk about the White Devils. He's going to talk about... he would just do this whole black militant rap thing.
Right.
And he'd get a crowd all worked up. Please welcome brother Jay Leno. So I would walk out and what? And I'd go, shh. He doesn't know I'm white. Shh, don't say anything.
Oh,
so this
awesome.
would get a huge, and he thought that was like the funniest thing. But he would go on and do this. Jay Leno, come out here and speak to you people. Do this whole
break it down.
Yeah, break it. Yeah, and so that was kind of fun. So
how do you get a gig when you open for Miles Davis or Muddy Waters? Is there like an auditioning process? Or does an agency just go, here's
No, it wasn't an agency. There was a club in Boston called Lenny's on the Turnpike. It was a...
Everywhere you played, it was like a Runyon novel.
Yeah, it was like...
and I was at Lenny's at the Turnpike.
There was Lenny's, there was Sandy. You see, it was different.
We're out of these.
It was back in the day.
So it's just Elms.
That's right. Back in those days, nobody played a theater. Miles Davis would come into Lenny's for like 5 nights. And for $6.95, you got a steak dinner, a drink, Miles Davis, and a comedian as opening act.
The greatest,
and it was
single greatest, maybe guy to ever play a trumpet. If maybe not cobbled together an album like Kind of Blue.
Right.
Get John Coltrane, a guy not afraid to have great people
open for John Coltrane.
You opened for John Coltrane.
Yeah, you know what it was? Jazz and comedy.
What planet do you live on? How did this happen to you?
Because
of course you're hosting the
when you
Tonight
hook
Show.
up with one jazz artist, jazz was the only place that listened. When I worked burlesque and strip clubs, nobody listened. When I used to open for Buddy Rich and Stan Getz, Mose Allison, Armand Jamal, Stanley Clark, all those guys, as soon as you walked out, people went, shh, shh. I had never played to an audience that actually listened when I walked out. Because working strip joints, I used to work with 2 strippers, Lily Pagan and I Need a Man. And they had an old Nash on the side.
I don't think that's her birth name.
No, that's not. But you know what? But you see, you have to see it.
Anita Brown.
They were exotic dancers, and they were enormous women. They were big women, huge boobs, fake wigs, and they were uneducated but not dumb. They couldn't type. They couldn't be secretaries. So we would drive around New England, and they would put together at each place this giant champagne glass. And Anita would take a bath in the champagne glass while I told jokes. It's so stupid. I
don't know why people didn't listen to you.
And they were about 30.
Maybe you needed to wear a brighter shirt
I think
or something.
So. They were about 35 or 40 years old. So we were out at this Army base, Fort Devens, I think it was. And, they would show up in the afternoon with nails in their teeth and power tools and put together the champagne glass out of plexiglass and all this stuff, fill it with water, and then do their act. So she's in the tub, doing this whole thing with the bubbles, and this guy is heckling me. And I was 19, and these women were like 40, and they were very protective of me. So Lily gets out of the tub, naked, covered with bubbles, walks over, and just punches a guy in the face, breaks his nose. His nose literally flattens against his face. There's blood all over the place. The guy goes down and caused the audience roaring hysterically. She gets back up, goes back in the tub, and then starts washing herself again. Now I have to finish my act. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. But so that's
she doesn't know I'm white either.
That's what you had to play with.
How do you get opening for Muddy Waters?
Well, I got that through Lenny's on the Turnpike because I was willing to work for cheap or for free.
It seems like the narrative of your professional career is you were just willing to work.
I just never,
Period.
I never took a job for the money. What I used to do was in Boston, I'd go into a bar, and I would say, I'm a comedian. They'd say, get out of here. And I had a $50 bill that I carried. And I'd say, here's $50. I give it to the bartender. I said, I'll go over there and tell jokes. If I embarrass your club and people leave, you keep the 50. If I get some laughs and people like it, give me my 50 back. Okay, and everybody went for that. Nobody ever kept the 50, even when I sucked and it was terrible. They always go, look, kid, here's your 50 back, don't worry. But that always worked.
Is this like at 19 also?
Yeah, 19, 20.
You really sort of had like a giant amount of opportunities that you created for yourself in that such a finite age. Like you've said 19 a lot.
Yeah, that's when it all kind of came together for me.
Bitter end and strip clubs and I'll just go to a bar and work for free.
The Muddy Waters story was I was working with Muddy at the Cellar Door. Jack Boyle owned the Cellar Door.
His birth name, oddly, is Anita.
Anita Boyle, there you go. And so I walk out on stage for the first show of 2 shows. I'm not out there 2 minutes, and a guy comes up behind me with a Heinz ketchup bottle and just cracks me on the head, splits my head open.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
I go
Where
down.
Is this? I'm sorry.
The Cellar Door, Washington.
Okay, so you're at the Cellar Door in Washington,
Splits
D.C.?
my head open. I have to go to the hospital.
In the nation's capital?
Nation's capital.
Okay.
And Jack Boyle docked me 2 shows pay because you're a professional. You should expect these kind of things.
How many stitches did you get? Do you
I
remember?
know. Just a bunch of stitches in my head. But it knocked me out.
And did you ever talk to Muddy about that? Or do you think he...
That's show business.
Hey, man.
That's what it is. And that's pretty much what it was. Howlin' Wolf, I worked with him.
Wow.
All those guys.
These are like my heroes.
They were cool. Buddy Guy, Junior Wells. To this
Buddy
day,
Guy you've had on the show.
many
I've
times.
seen him on the
Buddy
show
and
a lot.
I go back to 69, 1970. That's when we first worked together.
There's really not a happier guy that you could meet. He's like human pot. Like he just makes everything around
Yeah,
him
he's
laugh.
a great guy and really talented. Really talented. I used to work for Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. You remember that's Teddy Pendergrass. That was the Sugar Shack in Boston. That was an all-black club. And they were really nice to me. It was.
What was the first like gig you had where you realized the jazz clubs, but they were still like Lenny's by the Turnpike type gigs?
Yeah, but that was huge show business. When you were a kid, you're putting everything in context of being in Hollywood.
Yes.
You're in Boston and you make $50 a night.
Well, I'm a Jersey guy. I mean, I made $50 at like the Lake of Pakong boathouse while in high school. And I remember first
Club Benet. You ever do Club Benet?
I
Jersey?
did not, but
that was
I
another
couldn't
one.
get squeezed in between Jackie Martling and Tower of Power.
Yeah. Club Benet. I played many times there.
Paul Veneer, Jackie Martling, Tower of Power.
Yeah,
That's our month.
All those places.
But I mean, I remember going to first period French class, and I had $50 in my pocket, and I remember no kid in this class has $50. And then I looked at my French teacher, and I realized I don't think she does either. Like college, my ass. This is where it's at.
Yeah, that's
like if I went to college, it would have set me all the way back. I would have cut into that 7 years that you're saying going on straight in a row.
Here's a story you'd love. One day I was working, I got a call from Sinatra. And he goes,
Which
hey,
one?
Frank, not Junior.
Oh.
Yeah. Would I go to Chicago and do some Sons of Italy benefit? And I said, I can't do it that day, sir. I'm at the Holiday House in Pittsburgh with the Sons of the Pioneers. That's what I was opening for. That was the act. And
What is that band?
It's just
a band?
Just an old. This is
Puppetry?
like 76. I go, I can't do it because I'm at the Holiday House. And Sinatra says, oh, okay. I said, I'm sorry, Miss. I do it if I could. No problem. About 20 minutes later, Sinatra's agent called back. We called the Holiday House. They don't need you. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I guess I'll go to Chicago. So I go to Chicago, and they say to me, it's going to be a priest there, and it's okay. So I get up and I do my little act, and these are gangsters. I mean, real gangsters, real tough guys, So I'm doing my act, and I sit down, and this guy gets up and goes, "Good to have you all here," and he starts swearing, and the priest goes, and Jackie, that was the gangster, goes, "Hey, father, You got your 10 grand in the bag. Shut the fuck up, like this. So the priest squeezes his bag with the 10 grand in it, and he just kind of, he goes, hey, you hear what I say? Get back! And he goes over like he's going to hit him. I go, take it easy. They're holding this guy back. I'm like, get me out of this nut house. And then they go, Jay, you want to play golf? I don't play. No, come on, play golf. So now we get in a golf cart, and we're driving around, and in each hole, there are these hookers, the youngest one probably 45, the oldest one 70, topless with leather skirts, and and tiger skin things.
January.
Handing out drinks. It was like the nuttiest. And the guy
and you were golfing with Frank?
Says to me, hey,
the mob guys?
No, these mob guys says to me, hey, you know the Stallone guy, this guy that got this Rocky thing out? I said, I don't know him, sir. We asked him to come here. He said, no. What's that all about? I said, I don't know. I don't know, so I never met him. You don't know him? You live in Hollywood? Well, I don't live there now. I've been there. You see him, you tell him that. I said, yeah, I'll thank you, sir. I'll tell him that. Just scary.
But you've had him on the show. Did you tell him?
Actually, I did tell him that story.
You really did?
Yeah, they were mad because Rocky had just broken, and they asked him to come, and he couldn't come the same way I couldn't come. But
hey, not for nothing. You really help out Sons of Italy.
The Sons of Italy. Hey,
you could come, Sly.
Oh, it was hilarious. It was hilarious.
Hey guys, Pepsi Max sponsors Mohr Stories, and that's a really big deal because I'm pretty sure it's the first time a soft drink has actually sponsored a podcast. They have a great baseball contest that they're doing. It's the Field of Dreams program. They've done this 2 years. Pepsi Max asks fans to vote for their dream team of living baseball legends in the American National Leagues. And you guys did. Some of you did. 2 consumers have won the experience of a lifetime. The American League winner, Johnny Parati from Rochester, New York. The National League winner, Stephen Kaczmark from Washington, D.C. Now, these guys get to play with all their friends with the American League and National League dream team that they put together. American League teams got like Yogi Berra. He probably can't run too good, so if he tries to steal, I'm gunning his ass down. Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt, Rod Carew, Cal Ripken Jr., Brooks Robinson, Ken Griffey Jr., Reggie Jackson, Ricky Henderson, Jim Palmer, Dennis Eckersley, Paul Molitor. That's Johnny Parati's team. The American League. The National League team, Stephen Kaczmark from Washington, D.C., him and his buddies get to play with Johnny Bench, Stan Musial, Andre Dawson, Randy Johnson, Trevor Hoffman, Fred McGriff, Ryan Sandberg, Ozzie Smith, Mike Schmidt, Tony Gwynn. So you guys go to MLB.com/Pepsi Max and vote for who gets to host the game. Johnny Parati or Stephen Kaczmark? Rochester, New York or Washington, D.C.? Which one of these 2 guys will host a game with their buddies? Now you may say, that's really not that big of a deal to me, JJ. I don't really care who hosts this game. Fine. However, Pepsi Max, maybe you didn't hear me in the beginning, has decided to sponsor this podcast. Therefore, by you voting at MLB.com/Pepsi Max, you put an imprint on that website from here, and Pepsi Max says, holy smokes, there are a lot of morons, Moriers, Mormons, Maureen's, JRS1 and his 9 Lives crew, Fake Mustache Forever. These people come to play. So go to MLB.com/Pepsi Max and vote for who you think should host the game, if for nothing else, to let Pepsi Max know that you're out there listening and you respect the fact that they're out there promoting and helping sponsor Mohr Stories. All right, guys? Which team has better nicknames? Yogi Berra. Yogi's good. Frank Thomas was the Big Hurt. Cal Ripken Jr. is the Iron Man. Jr. Reggie Jackson was Mr. October. I got to tell you, so far, the American League is killing the National League with nicknames. Johnny Bench, I don't think, had one. Stan the Man Musial. Andre Dawson was the Hawk. That's pretty tight. The Hawk's tight. Big unit for Randy Johnson. Trevor Hoffman, I don't know. Fred McGriff was the Crime Dog. Ryan Sandberg, Ozzie Smith, Mike Schmidt, Wizard of Oz. Tony Gwynn. So American League wins best nicknames. All right, go to MLB.com/Pepsi Max and vote for which one of these guys is going to host the game, the American League or the National League, Johnny Parati or Stephen Kaczmark, and let Pepsi Max know that you listen and you appreciate them sponsoring this. I'm done talking now until I talk the next time, which is now.
So it's almost like all of these hell gigs, and now, I mean, if you really believe in you reap what you sow, like now, you obviously love what you do.
Yeah, but hell gigs are good because they give you stories, and
that's what I'm saying. But also, these hell gigs sort of steeled you to the point where you've gone all the way through the tunnel, and you come out, and the Tonight Show is the light.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. It's just
how long have you been doing the Tonight Show?
Well, I started guest hosting in '86. So since '87, I've been the permanent guest host.
Oh, wow.
That's another example of I've never taken a job for the money. I remember there were 5 of us that were up for the guest host position. And I got a call from one of the other guys.
Can you say who the other 4 were? Or you just don't want to get...
Well, I think it was Gary Shandling and Billy Crystal, a few others. But somebody's agent called me and said, listen, this guest host job, we're all rotating. Blow a clarinet on one side of his mouth, hold that note indefinitely, like 5 minutes, and then play another minute, and he was blind. And we used to do black clubs. And we would go, me and him, and his band. So Rassan would walk out, and he would go, I want to welcome you, brothers. We got a young brother here. He's going to talk about the White Devils. He's going to talk about, he would just do this whole black militant rap thing.
Right.
And he'd get...
But you opened for Muddy Waters.
I used to tour with Muddy.
Like I opened for Barry Sobel.
I was Barry Sobel.
You opened for Muddy Waters.
I was Miles Davis's opening act. You know that?
No, I didn't. This is... Wait, so...
I used to tour with Miles. I used to tour with... you ever heard of Rassan Roland Kirk?
Which one? The first one or the second one?
No, Rassan Roland Kirk was... he was blind, African-American guy, wore dashikis.
Oh,
Rassan.
No,
do you know who he is?
No, I don't.
Well, he was famous because he could hold a note like... He could... It was a...
Everywhere you played, it was like a Runyon novel.
Yeah, it was like...
and I was at Lenny's at the Turnpike.
There was Lenny's, there was Sandy. You see, it was different.
We're out of these.
It was back in the day.
So it's just Elms.
That's right. Back in those days, nobody played a theater. Miles Davis would come into Lenny's for like 5 nights. And for $6.95, you got a steak dinner, a drink, Miles Davis, crowd all worked up. Please welcome brother Jay Leno. So I would walk out and what? And I'd go, shh. He doesn't know I'm white. Shh, don't say anything.
Oh,
so this
awesome.
would get a huge, and he thought that was like the funniest thing. But he would go on and do this. Jay Leno, come out here and speak to you people. Do this whole
break it down.
Yeah, break it. And so that was kind of fun. So
how do you get a gig when you open for Miles Davis or Muddy Waters? Is there like an auditioning process? Or does an agency just go, here's
No, it wasn't an agency. There was a club in Boston called Lenny's on the Turnpike. And they were very nice to me. They paid me. And it was just one of those kind of gigs where you just get...
What made you decide to show up and come clean? Like, I would have just been like, don't get me started. Like, I would have just tried to acclimate as best as possible.
That wasn't going to work. It's just... There are just so many heartbreaking shows when you start out. I was working at Cellar Door, opening for Muddy Waters. And I was on stage 2 minutes.
You can't just gloss over that.
What?